As the world celebrates International Women's Day, the United Nations is asking the Nigerian government to implement the national gender policy as the key to achieving gender equality in the country. This announcement was made at the Women's Day celebration held in Lagos by the United Nations Information Center in conjunction with several other non-governmental organizations. Our correspondent Pt.3 Fagbemi reports.
Women, both young and old, gather in this hall to mark the 2016 International Women's Day. The theme of the celebration is Pledge for Parity, a theme which the keynote speaker finds rather ironic.
Women are the ones controlling and holding the keys to the Nigerian economy. So should women now be pledging for parity, for something they're already in control of? Assuming women all over the world, the country decide we want to down tools for one day, whether in the home, maybe the housewife say we are downing tools today, no work day for women, the economy will collapse.
For the director of the United Nations Information Center, Mr. Ronald Kayanja, Nigeria still has a long way to go as the country is far below the global average of 22.5% and the average for sub-Saharan African countries of 23.4%.
The message is, Nigeria, you have a great national gender policy. It covers everything. The challenge is that this gender policy is on paper. Much of it is not implemented.
It wasn't all doom though, as the women were given lifestyle-enhancing tips on diet, beauty and conflict resolution.
Because we're doing gender parity doesn't mean that we're going to come out looking like a man. No, I'm a woman. I'm beautiful. I love being a woman. I don't want to be a man.
For the participants, every minute spent in this hall has been worthwhile.
One important thing I've gained is empowerment. I've learned that parity means empowerment. Parity means equality. Parity means equal opportunities for both boys and girls.
I want more women that no matter the circumstance they find themselves, they should try to make sure they have economic empowerment. No matter how small it is, a woman must control her income.
Gender parity is one of the Sustainable Development Goals which the United Nations hopes will be achieved by the year 2030, and it is clear that economic empowerment is the key to achieving this goal. Pt.3 Fagbemi reporting for Channels Television News.
Scarcity of foreign exchange in Nigeria has resulted in less productivity and slowing economic activities. Some business owners are cutting jobs and even plan to close their shop. Nigerians appear to be concerned about the economic shift since government's tight fiscal policies are not yet apparent. Channels Television's business news correspondent Temple Ashaju reports.
It is common knowledge that the worsening decline in crude oil price is the main reason for the scarcity of foreign exchange in Nigeria. The effect of this trend is the continuous weakening of the naira, delay in trade repayments to foreign banks, and denial of hard currency loans from domestic lenders. Between the official window of the CBN and the parallel markets, the demand for foreign exchange continues to soar, yet difficult to source.
All the APIs we import, raw materials, packaging materials, machineries, everything are imported. So we are highly forex dependent.
We have a staff strength of about 400 and indirect staff, that means casuals, of about 2,000. And we run 3 shifts. Now we are running out short of raw materials. From next week, we'll start running 1 shift instead of the 3 shifts. And eventually, if we run out of raw materials, we are bound to close.
No. They don't need to shut down. All they would mean is that in the short run, in the short term, yes, maybe because they will go and buy the FS at that secondary market. Maybe they can buy 3 if they like 300, 2 something. Once they produce, probably they will pass that cost back to the consumer in the short run. When we now begin to manufacture those things here in Nigeria, you will see the price dropping.
Last year, the central bank introduced foreign exchange restrictions to 41 items, a policy aimed at managing currency distribution from the official window. This policy is now a hard and fast rule for beneficiaries.
It is apparent that our national currency is being deliberately undermined through carefully orchestrated criminal conspiracies and manipulation by unscrupulous elements hiding under the cloak of the so-called market forces. As a responsible government, we cannot afford to allow such a situation anchored on unlawful alliances and criminal enterprise to continue unchecked.
I think Mr. Buhari maybe is coming at this from the political side of things, that it's difficult for a president swept to power with a great groundswell of popular opinion to turn around and let go of the naira and the kind of, you know, the inflation and the difficulties that might bring to poor Nigerians.
As Nigeria has rejected calls to free float the naira, the shortage in forex brings the country to a crossroad of low productivity and the positive effects of redirecting efforts to productions less dependent on forex. Temple Ashadu, Channels Television News.
Well, joining me now to look at the difficulties in obtaining foreign exchange is Mr. Muda Yusuf, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's been a while now that the CBN imposed some restrictions on the sale of forex and, of course, to end users. My question is, to what extent would you say this has affected access to foreign exchange?
Well, let me say first of all that the impact of the entire policy has been very profound on business. It has been very difficult for many businesses, just as you have heard in the report. Jobs are being lost, confidence is being lost, reputation is being lost, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So what has happened now is that a lot of manufacturers and even operators, it's not just manufacturers, it cuts across both those in manufacturing, in agri and in service sector. Many of the critical inputs that they need for purposes of production, they cannot get. As long as it has to do with FX, no matter what percentage. So there's a major issue of availability of foreign exchange, either from the CBN window or from the parallel market window. So there's a major liquidity crisis. And that is impacting significantly on the confidence of investors, domestically and internationally. Because there is no way you can do a business internationally if you don't have a liquid foreign exchange market. Because you have to relate one way or the other with foreign suppliers. And now we have a situation where many Nigerian investors have defaulted in payment to their foreign suppliers. It has cost them a huge, in terms of reputational cost, it's a huge cost to them. In terms of credibility, it is a huge cost to them. So it's a major crisis that many investors are faced with, the issue of availability of foreign exchange.
Let's look at the restriction now of by the CBN on forex. Is there an alternative window, for instance, that the manufacturers can take advantage of that would not affect their cost of production?
Well, it is difficult to talk about an alternative window because as it is, we don't seem to have a foreign exchange market. Because you have a policy regime that has fixed the foreign exchange at 197. And the CBN cannot meet the demand. The demand is about $4 billion US per month. The capacity to fund the market is about $1 billion per month. So there is no way the CBN could meet that kind of demand. So for the manufacturers, where else can they go? Because we have a policy regime now that has concentrated virtually everything on the central bank. The other window that could have supported the supply side is the autonomous window. These are funds that come from the export proceeds, funds that come from diaspora remittances, funds that come from foreign investors who want to move in capital into the economy. But these funds will not come because there is this policy that, okay, if you are bringing the funds, you have to exchange it at the official rate. So there's a major obstruction even to supply. So what the CBN has been doing is to concentrate on the demand side. They are not addressing the supply side. That is why the crisis is as bad as it is. So what we think is the way forward is that first, we need to liberalize the other window, the autonomous window. Export proceeds, the exporters should be allowed to bring in their forex and exchange at whatever the market rate is. Diaspora remittances in 2014, diaspora remittances to this economy was over 21 billion US dollars. We have the highest diaspora remittances in the whole of Africa. So we should be rolling out incentives to encourage
corruption, so many problems that we have. I want to say, like Nelson Mandela said, that he became the president of South Africa, that it almost seems impossible until it is done.
The MTN Foundation is not just caring about the health of the mother and child, but also on social infrastructure in its initiative tagged, "What Can We Do Together?" This will see to the execution of 200 new projects.
Driving economic growth in Nigeria is incomplete until skills acquisition is given ample attention at different establishments. This message is one of the key recommendations offered at the Nigerian edition of The Economist, the management of Lagos Deep Offshore Logistics Base, Ladol.
And then you've got the TED Fund, which is at the tertiary.
This is one of the sessions at the 2016 edition of the Economist Summit, organized to address Nigeria's challenged economy, insecurity, and governance. And one of the panelists who offers a solution to these challenges is the Managing Director of Ladol Integrated Logistics Enterprise, Ms. Emi Jadesemi. Using the Ladol Industrial Free Zone example, she says boosting private investments in strategic infrastructure can help foster the skills for a prosperous future in Nigeria.
I think the key to driving economic growth in Nigeria is recognizing that the missing ingredient has been and continues to be a lack of indigenous investment, private sector investment in critical strategic infrastructure. In the oil and gas sector, Ladol has done the same thing. So we've built the largest shipyard in West Africa. This has instantly created 50,000 jobs because we've changed the way people look at doing oil and gas in Nigeria.
This leads to a question on staff training from the audience.
My question is, why aren't we focusing more on talking more about training our staff rather than putting them through school? What happens after school?
When local content works, and in every country where it's worked, including Nigeria, it lowers costs. One of the ways in which you lower costs is by employing locals. So when you set up a company in Nigeria that's adding value, that's producing a product, it really doesn't matter what it is, you have a very strong incentive as a private investor to train the local workforce.
Financing is a big issue. We've trained teachers, and you find a lot of these teachers, they want to go on training, they want to upscale themselves, but I mean, they're earning 18,000 naira, earning 40,000 naira. How are they going to fork out, 50,000 naira, or even if it's 12,000 naira to go on a training?
With over $500 million investments in the Lagos Deep Offshore Logistics Base and 50,000 employees, Ms. Jadesemi says skills acquisition is a dogma.
In the next 5 years, the projects being done at Ladol will be cheaper than doing them anywhere else in the world. So that creates an incentive for many other people to pile into the market.
Ladol is currently West Africa's base for rig and vessel repair. The Free Zone's favorable tax climate has been helping oil and gas giants to lower costs.
Still ahead on the news at 10, World Anti-Doping Agency slams Russia for not devoting enough energy to get rid of doping. That's the sports news. Stay with us.